and they have formed them into piles. And they have these half bricks, which are lighter and easier to throw if there is, in fact, a police confrontation. Grown pesticide-free in a sterile environment, these veggies are safe to eat right off the tray. I brought my umbrella with me this afternoon, but it doesn't look like I'm going to need it. We're actually seeing some sunshine peek through the clouds right now, and there's plenty of people out here, tourists today. That wasn't the case yesterday, as heavy wet weather came through Sydney and other parts of New South Wales. Social distancing is a key health safety measure at these ball games. There shouldn't be anyone sitting immediately to my left or to my right. The clubs have also banned food and alcohol from the stands. North Korea state media, in a rare move, responded very quickly to President Donald Trump's tweet about how he would like to shake Kim Jong-un's hand at the border. They said that that was an interesting suggestion. Many protesters here lived through the devastating Korean War. Since then, they've seen deal after deal with North Korea fall short. They don't believe the Kim Moon summit will lead to peace. Judy, a strong sign the public believes the government's efforts working is evident on these streets tonight. In this neighborhood, you can see a lot of people actually out having dinner and drinks, and that wasn't the case here just a few weeks ago. A man who was waiting here, he told me his wife found it very unusual as far as touchdowns go, because when the flight landed, nobody unbuckled their seatbelts, nobody raced to get their bags and to get off the plane. They had been informed ahead of time they were to stay seated while the jet was disinfected. This scene of people leaving Palu has continued nonstop for days. They've lost loved ones, their homes, and so much more. Directly behind me as well, what they're trying to do is scrub off a message, a profane message of hate towards the police. Perhaps you can make out the last two words, the police. I'll let you fill in the blank as to what the other word could be. So say, for example, you're on a family vacation, but not everyone can attend. With 5G data speeds, this company, KT, says you'll be able to literally join them from the comfort of your couch.
The fires have killed dozens of people, incinerated thousands of homes, and dealt a significant economic blow to many small business owners. Our correspondent Bruce Harrison has been traveling along the East Coast, visiting some of those businesses.
Here are just basically all got to be thrown out, yeah, like.
Magic Plant Nursery owner Mark Ettridge lost all his camellias when a bushfire swept onto his property.
So I'm going to have to take trees back down that hill further to make all this area safe.
$70,000 of plants literally up in smoke. Ettridge now hopes to qualify for emergency grants the federal government has announced for small businesses.
From where I am now to get back to where I was is, yeah, that's a decade. But with a bit of support, I can probably tidy some things up and get some more plants back in, and and probably get active in a few months' time.
Small business advocacy groups estimate hundreds of thousands of businesses have been impacted, with losses to climb into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, the government is expanding its support.
What we're doing today is increasing the grant from $15,000, which is being done with the state governments, now up to $50,000 for affected small businesses. State governments have already the processes in place to assess these applications.
Much of Ettridge's property is still green, but others along the Princes Highway were completely wiped out.
The owner of this scrapyard told me he was uninsured. He said in these very dark times, Aussies tend to lean on their humor. Once he removes all of these burnt trees there in the distance, he said at least he'll have a better view of the valley below.
For many owners, a great view keeps them in business, but the fires have scared away tourists from small coastal towns. The message they're trying to get out now is that it's safe to return.
And it's really important that people come and support our community so that our businesses can continue. They are the lifeblood of this community. Without those small businesses, our community falls apart.
The government has announced additional funding just for the tourism sector. Owners hope the money will be flowing soon, considering that 1 in every 13 Australians works in tourism and hospitality. Bruce Harrison, CNA, Shoalhaven, New South Wales.
As professional baseball in North America struggles with more COVID-19 cases, it's business as usual for ball players in South Korea. For the fans, though, it's anything but normal. Limited tickets, no beer, and no cheering make the experience nothing like past seasons. Bruce Harrison reports.
Han Jae-kwon believes Korean fans are the best in baseball. He's cheerleading captain of the Doosan Bears. In action here,
against the Kium Heroes.
A cheering squad can only exist when there are spectators, so we really wanted the fans to come back. I'm so happy they're back.
With Jamshid Stadium seating capped at 10%, it's not last fall's sold-out games of more than 25,000. But the league hopes to expand capacity if there's no coronavirus outbreak under their new safety guidelines. The effort starts at the gate with temperature tests and hand sanitizer, a small inconvenience, some fans say, to watch their idols play.
I like Park Ji-guk the most because he's good looking and his stats were great when I became a fan. Plus he looks handsome when he throws the ball.
Enter the stadium and you're met by staff with signs. They remind you to wear a mask at all times and to stay in your seat.
Social distancing is a key health safety measure at these ball games. There shouldn't be anyone sitting immediately to my left or to my right. The clubs have also banned food and alcohol from the stands. They don't want anyone drinking here and getting a little bit too rowdy and potentially spreading the virus through the air.
With food banned from the stands, fans are required to eat in the concourse, which can come with an extra cost.
We just came out to eat and they hit a home run. If we had eaten inside, we would have been eating and watching the home run. So that was unfortunate.
But it doesn't appear to have deterred fans. At this game, on a weeknight, the Doosan Bears nearly sold out all 2,440 limited tickets. But the clubs are still reeling from lost ticket revenue over the past 3 months. According to local news, team officials have expressed concerns about paying players' salaries and keeping food vendors in business. For cheering captain Han, his biggest challenge has been keeping fan participation safe. With concerns about virus transmission through the air, fans are banned from chanting. So far, he says, they're playing by the rules and seem content with his louder clapping routines to replace the cheers. Bruce Harrison, CBC News, Seoul. It's a routine Seoul commute, and thousands pass through here daily. Glued to their smartphones, many are unaware of what these kids are discovering. The city's first underground smart farms built by agriculture company Farm 8. A computer system manages temperature, humidity, and acidity. Nutrient and mineral solutions replace soil. And artificial light stands in for the sun.
What we're growing here is called butterhead lettuce, and our harvest goes to our cafe and local restaurants.
Farm 8 runs 2 metro farms in Seoul, with 2 more in the works. The city gives them the space rent-free to encourage sustainable agriculture.
We installed vertical farms in the subway's unused space to provide our citizens with healthier food. Also, because our farms are in the city, it's possible to get fresh vegetables more quickly.
And fresh sells, as more consumers are concerned about where their food comes from. Grown pesticide-free in a sterile environment, these veggies are safe to eat right off the tray. Still, Farm 8 has to compete with lower prices. 100 grams of their lettuce cost about $1.20, 30 cents more than the average price of mass-produced supermarket lettuce.
Although it is a bit pricey, it's good for your body, so that's why I buy it. It's a good choice.
There are many environmental concerns, like fine dust. Rather than worry about the cost, I think people will prefer these if the quality is better.
Profit margins are tight, and without Seoul's support, the model would struggle. Kim knows urban veggie empires won't sprout up overnight. But with the metro farms doubling as showrooms and learning centers for Farm 8's smart technology, he hopes the country's agriculture sector will gradually incorporate its equipment to harvest all year round and adapt for future generations.
South Korea has turned from a COVID-19 hot zone to a leader in the global fight against the new coronavirus. Companies there are now making millions of virus test kits for export, and the public is voting in a parliamentary election despite the epidemic. Correspondent Bruce Harrison reports from Seoul on how the Koreans have worked together to get this far and aim to prevent a resurgence of the virus.
To visit this factory, you can't risk contaminating the product.
The work going on behind this door may just save your life. Manufacturer Bak Januk says they're putting chemical agents into vials and sealing the lids. The assembly line at South Korean firm Jincurix is small, but the chemicals they're packaging just today can be used in up to 150,000 COVID-19 tests. This is the final product.
한 키트가 이제 100명을 현재
Each of these kits can be used to test up to 100 people. A sample is collected from the patient's nose or mouth. A method called PCR is used to confirm the diagnosis, which takes 3 to 4 hours.
The company jumped into action, researching test kits in this lab in January when it heard about the first coronavirus death in Wuhan. South Korea learned the importance of early diagnosis during the 2015 outbreak of Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS, a viral respiratory illness similar to COVID-19. In theory, the faster you test, the faster you're able to isolate infected people and stem the spread of the virus. The government worked with Jincurix and other companies this year to produce test kits so they could quickly receive regulatory approval to test Koreans.
Although we are not doctors or nurses, we feel we are also fighting coronaviruses. So we feel it's very important in the world. Although it's a good business opportunity for us, but it's a very sad situation.
South Korea ran a textbook response to COVID-19 and has nearly tested 530,000 people. More than 10,500 have tested positive and 222 have died, for a death rate of just over 2%, half that of the United States. With no shortage of kits here, Jincurix is exporting tens of thousands all over the world. It plans to boost that number and send many to the U.S. once it receives FDA approval. South Korea's success at home against COVID-19 and its international reputation as a leader in battling the pandemic have given a boost to President Moon Jae-in. And it may have come at just the right time with today's parliamentary election. Moon has shouldered much of the blame for Korea's slowing economy, but the government's COVID-19 response may help extend his party's majority in parliament. Moon has made election safety a top priority. People had to have their temperature taken and wear rubber gloves and masks to vote. Lines were marked to keep voters at least 3 feet apart, and quarantined citizens could only leave home for a short time to vote after the polls had first closed for the rest of the public. But it'll take more than a safe election to prevent a resurgence of COVID-19. In this low-income neighborhood, professionals from the Korean Pest Control Association always announce their arrival. And the goal is to be as swift and non-disruptive as possible. They pay for the supplies and disinfectant out of pocket. This volunteer says the residents have very little money, so groups like his disinfect the building to keep it safe. Dozens of residents here share a single kitchen or bathroom, but it's still outbreak-free.
These people lack medical care, and most of them are marginalized and lonely. Personally, I'm thankful that some people are still concerned about us.
Residents can also get free face masks at a nearby community center. Center Director Bae-il Hwan explains to a resident she'll need to throw out her disposable mask if she wears it several times, but she can always come back for a new one. Seoul has extended a social distancing campaign through the end of the week. The government wants the public to stay home, aside from going to work, visiting a doctor, or buying necessities. In the early weeks of the outbreak here, most people tried to stay home, but that's now proving challenging.
There's no lockdown or even a shelter-in-place order, but the government does have its concerns. For one, these beautiful cherry blossoms. It's the spring flowers and the warm weather in general that's drawing people out in very large numbers, threatening the success of social distancing.
Seoul nightlife is also making a comeback. Some bars in this neighborhood shut down, but only temporarily. Others are operating at a loss, even with improved traffic.
We have great preventive measures and a healthcare system to back us up. Of course, everyone's health is the most important issue, but we have to go on with our lives.
And that may be easier, as Im suggests, in a country with single-payer health care that she seems to trust, as perhaps her patrons do as well. And nothing quite marks spring in Seoul like a picnic by the Han River. Like the election, there are precautions here, from signs urging people to keep their distance and bottles of free hand sanitizer. But unlike the election, there doesn't appear to be any enforcement.
The convenience store, like we were just in there, the line is huge, and that's probably not a good thing if you want to practice social distancing.
The growing trash heap near the store says a lot. Namely, Seoul is ready to get back to normal. But it's also a sign that people are confident their efforts and those of the government have made it possible this soon. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Bruce Harrison in Seoul.